Greetings, NAC family. I'm hiding in my basement, trying to get a quiet place. Can you relate? Yeah. Recently, as most of you know, the Ontario government lifted some of the restrictions on how churches gather, and we're finding out it's not quite as straightforward as it sounds. But more on that in just a minute. So, how does this affect NAC? Let me just cut to the chase. Like many churches in our area, we have not been and are not planning on holding weekend services in our building, nor any other in-person event that can't meet the health and safety guidelines in place during this COVID crisis. Currently, there are no other churches in Newmarket relative to our size or larger that are preparing to open anytime soon. That may change, but you should know that we've been in touch with some other pastors in our area, and this is a generally shared strategy to opening for them as well. What are some of the guiding principles in play here? Well, from the very beginning, our cooperation with requests from health officials has been about gladly and joyfully loving our neighbor. We are called by God to treat others as we would want to be treated and to serve and love those around us. Unnecessarily spreading this virus or putting people at greater risk for contracting it is simply, in our estimation, not a demonstration of the love of Jesus. And sadly, it feels like reopening of churches can become partisan, either politically or theologically, which is kind of disappointing and not all that helpful. Reopening should not be about left or right leanings, nor is our decision some exhibition of fear or lack of faith. A few days ago, our staff, some of our staff, were given a very helpful illustration from a Plan to Protect reopening training that they participated in. And it's an illustration that sort of helped characterize us by the three colors of a stoplight. So some of us are in the red light category, right? There is no way, no how that we are going to darken the door of a public indoor service while this danger is still even remotely imminent. In fact, we might consider staying apart until a vaccine is ready. Now, others of us might be in the green light grouping of people. We feel like, let's get this going. When are the doors open? Let's get to worshiping and hugging. Come on. Maybe some of us are in the yellow light category. We're like, okay, I'm open to meeting, but what's your plan? How are you ensuring safety? What are the steps we need to take? Convince me that this is a wise decision. And I just want to say that no matter what group you most identify with, I affirm you where you're at, okay? You are not wrong. Each of us have different health issues and family situations and comfort levels. Every region, it seems, has different threat levels and protocols. York Region is very different from Southwest Ontario or Halton. Every congregation has a unique demographic makeup, right? Which is why you'll never hear us disparaging another church because they have a different strategy than us. So we are trying to respect those differences and determine our guiding principles not by what we are technically allowed to do, but rather we are guided by the principles of what is the wisest, safest, most loving thing to do for our NAC family and our community at large. Now, let's just get real for a second. Even if we were, bound and determined to reopen this Sunday, there's not much to open to. Here are some of the regulations and recommendations we would have to adhere to. Social distancing of at least 6 feet beginning in the parking lot. a mere 30% of our seating capacity can be used. We would have to forgo all physical contact, okay? No hugs, no handshakes, no fist bumps, not even elbow bumps, okay? We'd have to wear face coverings. No children's ministry. Kids have to stay with their parents. No singing or being sung to. No collective recitations or spoken words. For instance, all of us saying the Lord's Prayer together out loud. No passing of anything from the elements of the Lord's Supper to the offering plate. No paperwork in the seats like bulletins or envelopes. No food or even our precious Sunday morning coffee is recommended. So some work needs to be done regarding how to creatively have a church experience that, quite frankly, isn't a major letdown, which some of the churches that I'm hearing about are reporting, some at least. Another thing, and this is where it can get kind of confusing, while churches are exempt from many of the size restrictions, people are still encouraged not to engage in gatherings. In Ontario, that's currently defined as 10 people indoors. So while it seems like a generous concession to the church and to people of faith, it's not allowed in any other capacity right now. I have to say this too. When we use the term reopen, what does that really mean? Like, since when did we close? NAC is still robust and active. Ministry is still happening. And God help us if what it means to be or do the church is ever reduced to simply weekend services. I like how Rick Warren put it recently. He said, our buildings have been closed, but the church is not a building. We are a living, breathing body. The church is a family, not a fortress. We are a people, not a place. We're an army of servants, not an event of attenders. The church operates 168 hours a week. Now, I'm a far cry from Rick Warren, but you have to admit that that's a bell I've been ringing for the last 2.5 years, right? Jesus has left the building. Go and be the church. So NAC has never been closed in the past 3 months, far from it. Some ministries have paused, some have started, most have adjusted, but good things continue to happen. Lives are still being touched. People are being ministered to. New folks are discovering Newmarket Alliance and hearing the gospel. So know as well that we are committed to continue these weekly online services long after the pandemic. We are far from closed. And I want to say this, because of your faithfulness and generosity, we are experiencing great stability and even financial strength. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we don't feel maybe the pressure to gather as though that were directly tied to our financial support. I think this speaks to the maturity and the health of NAC and even our willingness to pivot to digital methods of giving. Thank you, church. Thank you. I just couldn't be more proud. So for now and for us, we remember that one of the fruits of the Spirit is patience. And we're going to be patient until the time is truly right and wise to reopen our physical doors to weekend gatherings. Okay, that's all well and good, Jonathan, but what is the plan? Because regardless of the timeline, every business, every nonprofit, every school has to think through steps of what it means to reopen. All the planning, all the purchases, all the facility prep, the protocols, the procedures, the teams of volunteers it needs. It's going to take some time. So our board of elders and staff met over Zoom last week, and we are aiming for a first Sunday in September, September 6th, to have in place all the procedures in which we feel confident to safely open for weekend services. All of this, of course, may change with circumstances, as you well know. But right now, we are currently assembling a team of people and ministry department leaders and medical and board liaisons to bring together policies, procedures, guidelines in which we feel we can safely open. You know, think about the supplies that will need to be ordered, the insurance company that needs to be consulted. There are facility issues and cleaning issues and children's issues. There are many spinning plates, obviously. But I want to say this as well. We also see an opportunity for smaller groups to potentially start using the facility prior to that September relaunch. You know, smaller groups have infinitely less pragmatic issues to deal with. So could groups like Rock, young adults, some sort of Sunday night prayer meeting, our Spanish church plant NAC begin meeting at our facility sooner? We think they can, assuming that proper guidelines and protocols and safety are still met. You know, this isolation has been so difficult on many of us, but it feels like youth have been hit particularly hard. Our Rock group is a particularly tight-knit group. They are a low-risk demographic. They know how to social distance, and the numbers can be managed much easier in person. So there is an opportunity perhaps for a group of Rock's size to meet sooner if, and only if, all the safety protocols can be met. Okay, I hope that gives some of you some hope that the wheels are in motion. Parents, while the restrictions on children's ministry are particularly strict, Pastor Chris is working through options right now about how we can serve your kids. And let's be honest, how we can serve you as parents in some sort of midweek capacity. Perhaps in family units of 3 at a time, up to a maximum of 10 kids, you know, that sort of thing. Oh, we have not forgotten about kids, far from it. Kids and their parents are frankly who we are praying for the most these days. Church, I know this has been a really hard time. Some of you need people more than ever. It's becoming critical, isn't it? So I want you to know we take that seriously. And while all these reopening protocols are being worked on over the summer, simultaneously we are looking to create different opportunities for small group community, maybe chances to meet at people's homes safely. So that is very much on our radar as well. Maybe you even feel a new calling to be a small group host in these days. Would you let us know if that's the case? In closing, could I ask that you would pray for us? Pray that we could assemble teams of people to help with the work ahead. Pray that we would continue to actually grow our reach and influence in the middle of a pandemic. Pray that we would stamp out this virus once and for all. Would you pray for our leadership team? We just feel the burden of wanting to serve you well and do the right thing before God. We would just really be grateful for those prayers. If you have any questions or concerns about what I've shared today, don't be afraid to reach out, call, email. Someone will get back to you to discuss. You are a loved people. I hope you know that. I hope you feel that. God bless. Have a great day. Jonathan, out.